So here we have our steering wheel, and for us that is of course our best friend during the race because everything, you know, every hump in the street and every corner just comes through here, the feeling of it, everything, the whole sensation. As you have seen, it's detachable, so we have this locking system here that makes sure that we can do it in a very quick way, release it and click it back on. Here on the back you see that is what we call the pedal shift. This one I use to shift up until like 7th gear, and this one to shift down. With the downshift, that's quite remarkable these days, because in the good old days when I started racing, it was all sort of like different, because there you had to do the blip yourself. So when you sort of like did like the downshifting, the double clutching, you could hear the difference between Mario Andretti and Fittipaldi and Lafitte and all those people, because they had their own way of doing it. These days it's all software organized, so when we downshift we might try to look cool, but it's all done by the system. So that's for the shifting and the back side of the steering wheel. When we have a look at the front, it gets a little busier, and at this moment it's actually fairly quiet, because this display lights up when we put on the contact, and we have all the lights burning, particularly in the dark. It's really like a laser show, so that's quite difficult, and therefore to start with explaining that, we can dim those lights. So we have a facility, another button in the car where we can just reduce the light. If we start on the left top, that is the radio. We want to communicate with the pit. That's the radio we press. This is the beam lights. If we want to sort of like get the attention of the car that we are about to pass, we press it, and then we get 4 flashes to get their attention. This one here, it's not a cocktail, but that's the drink bottle. So we have connected to our helmet a tube that goes in our mouth, and there we can get a drink. Very seriously needed sometimes. And this one here, that is the pages that we can turn, because we have a display here, and if we want to just change those pages, we get all kinds of information, and it's like the Daily Telegraph. There's so much information there, it's incredible. This one, it says acknowledge, which means if I get an alarm and I see that it just is likely something insignificant, then I just press that, like acknowledge, I've seen it, and I continue my way. Then on the right top, that is the pit limiter. So as soon as I come in the pit, I press this button, and then it limits it to 60 kilometers, so I can't overspeed. If I press that too late, then I have to go up in the tower and explain why that was, and probably get a stop and go or whatever. This one is the kill switch, that if we want to stop the engine, obviously we press that one. Here is the wipers in the rain. Obviously we press it once, we get a certain speed. We press it twice, we get another speed, and so on. Then this is a full course yellow. If there is an accident on the track and it's safer to just slow all the cars down, then we press the full course yellow, and then we go around with 80 kilometers an hour. Then below that, that's the start button. So, you know, simply we press that one, and then the engine starts. And then here there is 4 switches. This is all like fairly on-off switches, but these are all adjustable. On the right top, I have the E-mapping. So with this one, I can set the mapping of the engine, which determines the ignition time, how much fuel I get, etc., etc. And we can regulate that. That's all preset, so we don't touch that unless we are told by our engineer in the pit. Then on the right button, it is like the throttle. So we can reduce or we can increase the throttle sensitivity. So if we want a very long, slow throttle, we can adjust that. If we want it very much reaction with 1 millimeter of throttle, we can also do that. On the left bottom, it's the power steering. So there I can go from a go-kart to a Cadillac, whatever I prefer, very gently. You know, at my age I run it more to the Cadillac, but anyway. And here is the gearbox mapping, because the gearbox has its own shift timing. We don't use the clutch anymore. So when I press this button here, it cuts the ignition. It gives also an electro pulse or an air pressure pulse to change the gears, and then I'm in the next gear or on the downshift. So that's all the things I can arrange here. Here on the top, those lights, they come together, and when I see the red lights, I shift. And on the outside, there is alarm lights or the traction control. Traction control is left and right. Here it says slip. That is more or less when I want the traction controlled, and on the right is how I want the traction controlled, if I wanted to interfere a lot or very smooth. So that's it about our fantastic office. So I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly do every day.